Hey there, welcome back to The Daily. This is Adriana. It's really great to be back here with you for another practice together as we open up our theme of July, which is courage. So, as I mentioned in our first practice this month, I really particularly resonate with this quality of courage because it's a quality that comes from the heart. So much like these kind of adjacent qualities of bravery or gumption or fearlessness, there's a real sense of being able to meet resistance, meet what is difficult, meet what is uncomfortable, with a sort of internal strength. However, I think courage, of course, stemming from that Latin root core, heart, is a strength that comes from really being kind of centered, grounded, and regularly placed in our heart. So rather than trying to kind of like think our way into a brave action, what we're doing is just allowing our heart to lead our way into brave action, into courageous action, which I just want to speak to for a moment. I think, oftentimes when we think about courage, it can be this sense of big sweeping gestures, that an act of courage is something that, is kind of grand and valiant. However, I think that everyday courage is something that is very frequently asked of us, something that's very frequently required of us. As Lodro mentioned yesterday, just being able to really meet ourselves at face value can be an act of courage, particularly if there are things there that are uncomfortable to meet. I think, having patience in the face of a really trying everyday situation is an act of courage. I think doing the hard thing because it is the right thing or the aligned thing is an act of courage. And these are things that, we have the potential, we have the possibility to engage in an everyday way. Even like getting out of bed in the morning when that is a difficult thing to do is a real act of courage. So rather than thinking of courage as being these kind of big sweeping grand gestures, I wanted to just kind of set the tone for the month of perhaps considering courage as kind of this like really commonplace everyday bravery that is informed by the heart, that's led by the heart, that's really heart-centered. So on that note, I want to take the next few days, I don't want to rush this, I want to take the next few days together to really just kind of land in the heart. So sort of like drumming up some energy here in the heart space by really centering our meditation practice around the heart and resting in the heart. So wherever we happen to be, just taking a moment to decide on our seat. And of course, if we're seated on a chair or couch, just letting our feet be flat on the ground, making sure that we have a nice stable base. And if we're seated on a meditation cushion, just finding a posture that's upright but not uptight. Just ensuring that we feel really sturdy, steady, sustainable. And then taking a moment to decide on our gaze. So eyes open or eyes closed, your call. And if we're practicing with eyes open, as always, just letting the gaze be soft, hazy, unfocused. And if we're practicing with eyes closed, seeing if we can still maintain this sense of being alert and awake. And we'll take just a few moments here, as always, to open our practice by opening our senses. So really dropping in, acquainting ourselves with the space, and turning our attention over to sound. Just receiving the sounds of the space that we're in. Perhaps any sounds that are coming through from my end. Intermingling, overlapping with the sounds that are in your immediate space. And just resting our attention here in the field of sound. Just welcoming sound as a part of our practice today. And then shifting the attention to touch. So taking a few moments to really just land in the body. And feeling the shape that the body currently makes. And feeling those tiny points of pressure where the body makes contact against the chair, the floor. And feeling where the body meets the body itself. Maybe even picking up on a bit of warmth or friction here. And taking in the texture of clothing against the skin. And temperature of the air around us. So really very little effort needed here. And just beginning to open up to what already is our direct experience, body and space. And dropping the attention to the feet. And just feeling our feet here. And tracing the attention across the soles of the feet. And through the ankles, grazing along the shin bones. And circling through the kneecaps, across the thighs. And landing in the hips. Feeling where the sit bones make contact. Moving the attention to the belly and the chest. Just resting here in the belly, the chest for a few beats. Establishing that first contact with the body breathing. So again, very little effort needed here. It's feeling the way the breath moves in the body today. Points of expansion, contraction in the body. Just continuing to follow the cycle of breath as it moves through the body. And we'll continue into practice. Just using that singular instruction that as our minds wander, which they naturally will, we're just noticing when we've left our breathing, acknowledging what captures our attention, and then gently, firmly coming back to the breath in the body. So as we settle into practice together, I want to invite us to just make a very subtle shift in attention here, which is to place our attention in the space of the heart, wherever that is most easily felt or locatable to you in the body. It may be here in the upper left corner of our chest. Maybe for us, this representation of heart is more easily locatable elsewhere. Just landing our attention here. And And without stretching to control or manipulate the breath, just allowing ourselves to breathe from this space of heart. So of course, there's a decent likelihood that we're finding our mind is drifting, maybe entirely lost in thought. If that's the case, no big deal. That's what the mind does. Again, just acknowledging where we've landed, light touch of recognition, and placing our attention back on the heart, and simply feeling the body breathe from this space. So, as is the ethos or the attitude of practice itself, there's not a lot extra that we need to do here. Just keeping it exceedingly simple. When we find ourselves drift, just applying a sense of gentleness, bringing the attention back. We're choosing to place our attention today right here in the heart center, making our heart a home, and breathing from this space. And if at any point we find that resting here in the heart center invokes a certain amount of tenderness, maybe sadness or anxiety, any more tender heart-based emotions, we can just greet whatever arises. Maybe even placing a hand on the heart just to signal to our central nervous system that we're okay, we're here, we're safe. And again, just feeling the body breathe. So as we continue to practice in this way, really naming our heart center as our vantage point in space, the space from which we practice from. We may even notice that there's a natural sort of movement that develops here. Perhaps a sense of expansion from the heart space on the inhale, and on the exhale, a return, a landing. We may even find that this is something that we want to play with a bit. This sense of expansion from the heart space on the inhale, getting bigger, more inclusive, a wider scope. And on the exhale, just a return, a landing, a resting here. So playing with our depth, our scope of attention as we feel the body breathe. And again, if we find that we have left our breath, left our body, maybe left the room altogether, just ushering the attention back, landing here in space, resting in the heart, and just feeling the body breathe, again from this heart space. And then in our final few moments of practice, perhaps just reconnecting to what it is that brought you here. That initial motivation, intention, why yes, why practice, why today. And just closing out with a little bit of sweetness, maybe giving ourselves a nod, a bit of thanks, a little credit for taking the time, making the space, being good stewards of our heart. And then as you're ready, letting formal practice drop and coming back in together at your own pace, no rush. Great. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.